Incumbent Florida Senator Marco Rubio won his primary election Tuesday. He'll face Democratic Congressman Patrick Murphy in November. Senator Rubio spoke to supporters in Orlando, Florida.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with all of you. To our CFO, Jeff Atwater, thank you for coming all the way over here. I really appreciate it. I look forward to working with you. Thank you, Jeff. Todd Wilcox is up with us here today. This man's got an incredible future. He's already served our country in incredible ways, and I'm so grateful to him for being with us today. And of course, my friend for over 2 decades. We're old enough to know each other over 2 decades. Our Lieutenant Governor, Carlos Lopez Cantera. Thank you all for being a part of this. Thank you. And I want to begin by, as I always try to do, when I should always remember to do, and that is to, as my faith teaches, thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, who, and I take great solace in my faith's teaching, that he will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end. And that ultimately gives purpose to my life and to our life. I, of course, would be remiss if I didn't thank the people that have been with me every single time I've done this, in the good days and in the bad ones, and that's my family, my wife Jeanette, and my 4 kids, who are, and I'll tell you right up front, guys, we probably have to leave pretty quickly tonight. I want to see everybody, as many people as I can, but they have school tomorrow, and Daniela has a test tomorrow, and yeah, so she'll be there if they're watching, but I'm really, this has been an unusual road back here with you tonight. As you know, after my race ended in March for the presidency, I was prepared to become a private citizen. And I was not just prepared to be so, but I was excited about what that meant. Time with our family, other opportunities. But I just couldn't be at peace with the idea that we were going to not just potentially lose a Senate seat, but lose the balance of power in the Senate at this critical moment in our nation's history, with a vacancy on the Supreme Court, with the potential that Chuck Schumer of New York would be the majority leader, with all the issues facing America. And I'm so grateful now, as I'm back with you here today, for the support that so many people have given us. The thousands of people who called and knocked and supported us and helped us along the way. I'm really grateful to you for this opportunity. To the Republicans here in the state, who over 70% of them have returned me as their nominee for the United States Senate. Now, in about 70 days, the people of Florida will choose. And they will have a clear choice to make. Politics are at its best when it's about clear choices. This election is going to present the people of Florida a very clear choice for the future of our country. I'm proud of my service. I'm proud of the things we achieved in my time as Speaker of the Florida House. I'm proud of the things we've achieved in my time in the United States Senate. I'm proud of the fact that I sponsored, I wrote, and we passed the VA Accountability Act so that those people that aren't working for our veterans will be fired from their jobs at the VA. I'm proud that I sponsored, I wrote, and we passed the toughest sanctions ever on the terrorist group Hezbollah. I'm proud that I wrote and we passed a bipartisan law called the Girls Count Act that goes after human trafficking. I'm proud that I wrote and we recently just passed the Foreign Aid Transparency Act, so we have more accountability and transparency over how your taxpayer money is being spent. I'm proud of the fact that I led the effort and we got rid of the Obamacare bailout fund so your taxpayer money cannot be used to bail out private insurance companies. I'm proud to have led the effort and we passed, after far too long a wait, recognition for the Burincaneers, a segregated unit of our armed forces who bravely served our country and waited far too long for the recognition they deserved by receiving the Congressional Medal of Honor. On issue after issue, I'm proud of the work we've done on behalf of the people of our great state. And I'm also proud of the way we've supported our constituents and helped so many people that have come to our offices. Over 40,000 people that have come to us and we've been able to help with their cases, including 5,000 veterans, 4,000 to 5,000 veterans whose cases we have processed. And that's why I'm asking the people of Florida to return me to the United States Senate, so that I can continue this work on your behalf, and so that we can have a Senate that returns to its proper role under our Constitution. And it begins from day one. For this nation has a Supreme Court vacancy, and it is the Senate that must confirm the next Supreme Court justice, and that justice must be someone who will apply and interpret the Constitution as originally intended, not any way they want it to mean, because if the Constitution means whatever you want it to mean, it means nothing at all. The Democrats and their hand-picked candidate will be our opponent. And I look forward for you and all the people of Florida understanding the differences. Like any candidate for the Senate, Patrick Murphy, the congressman from West Palm Beach, will have to justify to people why his candidacy is the right one for you to vote for. Now, he's tried to do that in the past by talking about how successful he's been in the private sector. The problem is it isn't true. He'd like to say he has dual degrees from the University of Miami, but the University of Miami says that's not true. He likes to say he has extensive years of experience as a CPA. CBS News found he hasn't worked a single day in his life as a CPA in Florida. He was a successful guy that started a small business and did golf cleanup. He started no business, and he never got a single contract to clean up the Gulf. So he's not going to be able to run on the promise of all the things he succeeded at as a private individual. He's going to have to account for his 4 years in Congress, where he was ranked by a nonpartisan group as one of the most ineffective members of Congress. And that's a hard thing to achieve in a Congress as ineffective as this one has been over the last 10 years. He'll have to answer for his liberal record. He likes to call himself a centrist and a moderate. Well, let me tell you about his voting record. Patrick Murphy is an enthusiastic supporter of the nuclear deal with Iran. And he's still a supporter of it, even after Iran got $400 million in ransom. Even after Iran took 3 more American hostages after the deal was finalized. Even after Iran captured 10 American sailors and tried to humiliate them, he still supports that deal. He still says that deal will bring us peace in our time. The last guy who said that was a prime minister from England in the 1930s, and he regretted it for the rest of his life. Patrick Murphy wants to close Guantanamo and either release these terrorists or bring them to America. Patrick Murphy is a supporter of the Export-Import Bank, a bank sponsored with your taxpayer money in which all the loans go to a handful of politically connected companies. And when offered the chance to vote for an amendment that said this bank can't give loans to countries that sponsor terrorism like Iran, he voted against that. In fact, last year alone, he voted with Barack Obama 94% of the time. Patrick Murphy is nothing more than an old-fashioned liberal, and his ideas that he stands for are wrong for Florida. They're dangerous, and they will leave us vulnerable as a people and as a nation. And so you may ask yourself, well, how can Patrick Murphy, who has done nothing in his private life to be successful and done nothing in his 4 years of Congress, which you'll have to answer for, how can someone with that kind of record think he can be elected to the U.S. Senate? And the answer is he has the sense of entitlement. Because when everything you've ever had in your life is given to you, you think you deserve it all. Now, I understand that in many parts of the world, people that come from families that are politically connected and influential dominate government, but not here in America. Here in America, we are entitled to nothing other than the liberties that our God has given us. Here in America, if Patrick Murphy wants to be a U.S. Senator, it doesn't matter how politically connected, wealthy, or influential his family is. He wants to be a U.S. Senator, he's going to have to earn it by beating the son of a bartender and a maid who came to this country in search of a better life. So I look forward to this campaign, because the best ones are the ones that give you a clear choice, and this one will be a clear choice between someone who has achieved things on behalf of our state and who has plans to achieve things in the future, and someone who feels he's entitled to the job because everything he's ever wanted has been given to him before. That's not the way it's going to work. Not for the U.S. Senate, not for this important state, and not at this critical time in our history. For this, my friends, is no ordinary time. America once again finds itself at the proverbial crossroads. And we've been here before. The truth is that for over 2 centuries, each generation of Americans has stood where we stand now. For over 200 years, each generation of Americans has had to make the choice that we are called to make at this moment. And the choice is the fundamental question of what kind of country do we want America to be? What kind of country will America be when Anthony and Dominic and Amanda and Daniela, my children, and your children are our age? And I believe there are only two ways forward. My children and yours will either be the freest and the most prosperous Americans that have ever lived, or they are going to be the first Americans that inherit a country worse off than the one that was left for their parents. The road we are on right now will leave my children and yours as the first generation ever who inherit an America worse off than the one that was left for their parents. That's the road we are on right now, and that's the road that Patrick Murphy will leave us on if he's our U.S. Senator. But I believe there's a different path if we do what needs to be done. If we rebuild our military, which Patrick Murphy supports cutting and I support rebuilding. If we re-embrace free enterprise, which Patrick Murphy apparently doesn't believe in, at least as a congressman, and I believe is essential to our prosperity. If we re-embrace all of the things that made America special, and we open the doors of opportunity for all Americans, no matter where you started out in life or what your parents did for a living, if we do those things, then I believe that our children and our grandchildren will be the freest and most prosperous Americans that have ever lived. That is the road that I ask us to choose. That is what I have always been about. That is what I will continue to be about if I am honored to once again serve you in the Senate as your senator. I look forward to the opportunity to doing that. For this is a time of great challenges, but also extraordinary opportunities. This is an exciting time to be in public discourse in America and in the debates before us. For I believe that our opportunities are even greater than the problems that we face. But to do that, we have to have the right people in those positions who don't just believe these things, but have done these things, who aren't just on the right side of the issues, but have been able to show how they can get those things done. And I have, and Patrick Murphy hasn't. That is the exciting opportunity that awaits us now, and I hope that we will fully embrace it, so that we can have a Senate that takes its role in our Constitution right. A Senate that will act as a check and balance on the excesses of the executive branch when it goes too far, no matter who wins this election. For the only person in this race who will not be a rubber stamp for the executive branch in this election is me. And that is what we need in the Senate more than ever before. I am privileged and honored to stand before you today. As I was walking into this gathering, as I usually do at these events, I walked through the kitchen of this hotel in the back room. And I ran into some of the folks that were breaking down what looked like a pretty good party that happened a little earlier in another room. And it reminded me, and as I told them, it reminded me of where I came from. And I've said this so many times, I will always say it. Because I think it speaks not just to me, but to our country. It was in rooms like this where my father worked for over 3 decades, maybe 4, as a banquet bartender behind a little rollaway bar. We don't have one here tonight because we're trying to save money we could have had a cash bar. But that's what he did for a living. And he stood behind a bar like that all these years so that I would have the chance to be anything I wanted. All my parents wanted in life was for their kids to have all the opportunities they never did. And I know that had they gone anywhere else in the world, they could not have achieved that. They came here with nothing, barely spoke English, no money, no connections, barely educated, formally anyways. And yet somehow they were able to own a home and retire with dignity and leave all 4 of their children better off than themselves. That's not just my story, that's our story. This is who we are as a nation and as a people. And this is who I want us to remain. But we didn't become that by accident. We became that because the men and women who stood here before us did what needed to be done, and now the time has come for us to do what needs to be done. And if we do what needs to be done, we will be able to leave for our children what our parents left us, the single greatest nation in the history of all of mankind.